On the 22nd of May 2026, Mexican authorities officially announced the killing of Nemesio Oseguera, known by the alias El Mencho, the top leader of the criminal organization commonly referred to as CJNG. At the age of 59, he was one of the founding figures behind the group. In less than a decade, the organization expanded its influence across much of Mexico, becoming one of the most heavily armed and violent criminal networks in the country. To understand why his death caused such a major shock, it is necessary to look at the position he once held in Mexico's criminal underworld. Nemesio Oseguera, whose full name is Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, was born in 1,966 inches, the state of Michoacan. He did not begin as a powerful boss, but as a small link in cross-border drug trafficking networks. Before rising to power, he spent time operating in the United States and was convicted on drug-related charges. After returning to Mexico, he joined predecessor groups and gradually consolidated control, particularly after separating from the Sinaloa network. Through ruthless methods, strict discipline, and the militarization of his organization, he transformed the group into a structured force capable of directly confronting state security forces. Because of the threat he posed, the United States government offered a reward of up to $15 million for information leading to his capture. In Mexico, he was considered a top priority target and was sometimes compared to Osama bin Laden in terms of the danger he represented. At first, the situation appeared to be little more than rumors, combined with outbreaks of violence in several regions. Within a short time, however, events escalated into one of the most significant security developments in Mexico in recent years. Early information indicates that the operation was the result of months of intelligence gathering, interagency coordination, and information sharing that included support from U.S. intelligence. The plan was executed with precise timing. Forces involved in the operation included Mexican Army Special Units, the National Guard, the Federal Attorney General's Office, the National Intelligence Center, and military intelligence divisions. Questions quickly emerged. How had such a large-scale operation been prepared? What role did U.S. intelligence play? More importantly, how would El Mencho's death affect the future of Mexico's drug war? Who would succeed him, and how might the criminal landscape change? Early signs of the operation appeared one day earlier. On the 21st of May 2026, residents of the Tapalpa Country Club complex in Jalisco reported unusual aircraft activity in the sky. Two large military helicopters circled the area before leaving. At first, the activity did not seem alarming. However, in Tapalpa, especially in an upscale residential area, the presence of military aircraft was unusual. Tapalpa is known as a mountain resort town, famous for its forests and isolated cabins. At the same time, certain surrounding areas were widely believed to be strongholds of the cartel. This was the first indication that something significant might be underway. By the morning of Sunday, May 22, at around 7 a.m., the situation changed completely. Witnesses reported seeing 4 military helicopters, likely Black Hawk aircraft, equipped with M134 minigun machine guns, flying in tight formation. 2 Texan II aircraft from the Mexican Air Force circled overhead. About 20 minutes later, around 7:20 a.m., the aircraft narrowed their flight patterns and concentrated over the country club area and the El Pinto Ranch, located roughly 7 kilometers from the center of Tapalpa near a reservoir. Shortly afterward, the first bursts of gunfire shattered the quiet of the mountains. According to multiple accounts, armed helicopters opened fire while federal forces advanced simultaneously along rural access routes leading to the ranch. The operation was not a simple aerial raid, but a coordinated assault from multiple directions. The confrontation reportedly lasted nearly 2 hours. For years, El Mencho had built an extremely complex security network. He maintained numerous safe houses, multiple layers of lookouts, prepared escape routes, and established hiding places across Jalisco, Colima, Nayarit, Guanajuato, and Michoacan. Constantly changing locations had long been his most effective protection against capture. Because of this operational discipline, many observers believed that arresting him was nearly impossible. Official details remain limited, and more information is expected to be released. Early reports suggest that the main focus of the operation was El Pinto Ranch, located only a short distance from the country club area. Why he was present there remains unclear. It may have been a temporary retreat in the mountains, or possibly a private strategic meeting. The answer is still unknown. One detail matched his long-standing habits. Whenever he moved, he was always surrounded by his closest security circle, almost a private guard unit, carefully trained and heavily equipped. What neither he nor his men expected was that the manhunt operation had been prepared for months in advance. According to a statement from the Mexican Ministry of Defense, the assault force likely included elite army units, such as a mixed Special Task Force, FEC, or a paratrooper Special Operations Unit, working together with a rapid reaction force from the National Guard. The operation was built on months of intelligence gathering and strategic analysis, with participation from the National Intelligence Center and the Special Prosecutor's Office for Organized Crime. The United States had previously supplied intelligence packages considered highly valuable. Whether the decision was made directly by President Claudia Sheinbaum, Security Minister Omar Garcia Harfuch, Defense Minister Ricardo Trevilla Trejo, or jointly by all three, it was clear that the order came from the highest level of Mexico's security structure. During the intense firefight, 4 members of Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación were killed on the spot, and 3 others were seriously wounded. All were believed to be part of Mencho's closest security ring. At the same time, lists began circulating on closed channels, naming individuals who were said to be high-ranking CJNG figures present at the scene. Among the nicknames mentioned were Sapo, El Grande, El Rebelde, NR1, believed to be the son of Tio Lalo, as well as NR3, El Fresa, El Negro, El Chaparro, and Comandante. It must be emphasized that all of this information came from unofficial sources, and at that time, Mexican and U.S. authorities had not confirmed the roles or status of any of these individuals. Among the 3 seriously wounded CJNG members was Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, along with Gonzalo Mendoza Gaitan, nicknamed El Sapo, one of the most trusted and influential figures within the organization. Authorities also seized multiple improvised armored vehicles, commonly known as monsters or narco tanks, along with rocket launchers capable of penetrating armor and threatening low-flying aircraft, as well as assault rifles and heavy machine guns. These weapons demonstrated the heavily militarized nature of the security detail. At approximately 9:34 a.m., the governor of Jalisco, Pablo Lemus Navarro, officially confirmed that a large-scale operation was underway in Tapalpa. Soon afterward, the response from CJNG escalated rapidly. Beginning early in the morning, numerous roadblocks using burning vehicles, acts of arson against transportation, and attacks on commercial facilities were reported across multiple areas of Jalisco. In several cities, public transportation was suspended, and residents were advised to remain indoors. Within only a few hours, the wave of violence spread to Guanajuato, Michoacan, Nayarit, and Aguascalientes, and later appeared in Tamaulipas and other states located hundreds of kilometers from the original center of operations. The speed of the spread indicated a coordinated reaction intended to create pressure and chaos rather than to control any specific territory. Faced with this situation, the Jalisco state government activated a red alert, the highest security warning level. The tactic used by CJNG is described by security analysts as urban diversionary terrorism. Its purpose is not to capture territory, but to overload the state's response capacity, forcing security forces to disperse in order to deal with fires, protect civilians, and restore order. Meanwhile, the real objective is to reduce pressure at the main point of the operation. In practical terms, this was likely one of the largest narco-bloqueo operations, cartel-imposed blockades, and one of the largest federal deployments to secure highways in recent Mexican history. In the BIO sector, the scale of deployment was considerable. Long military convoys, dense checkpoint networks, air support, and simultaneous operations across multiple cities showed the intensity of the situation. Those present at the time clearly understood the level of tension. However, it was not until 11:10 a.m. that an official statement from the Ministry of Defense confirmed that El Mencho had been killed during the operation. According to reports, he was severely wounded in the firefight and later died from his injuries while being transported for emergency treatment. This account was confirmed by the Ministry of Defense and by several independent sources. According to the official version, Mencho did not die at the scene, but was captured alive in critical condition and later succumbed to his wounds. From an operational and legal standpoint, the incident is classified as a capture resulting in death from combat injuries rather than an execution on site. Severely wounded, he and two carefully selected bodyguards were urgently loaded onto a military aircraft and flown toward a medical facility. During the evacuation, it became clear that the airlift was an emergency attempt to save his life. As the aircraft moved through the sky and his blood continued to drain away, the man once considered the most powerful crime boss in Mexico took his final breath, not in a prison cell and not before a courtroom, but between the mountains and the open sky. After the firefight with special forces, the final confrontation brought his life to an end. Unlike previous operations that ended with tactical withdrawals or incidents such as the clashes in Sinaloa, this time the Mexican federal authorities and the government of Jalisco maintained the offensive until their primary objective was achieved. Following the official announcement from the Ministry of Defense, President Claudia Sheinbaum publicly congratulated the Mexican Armed Forces and the National Guard, confirming the success of the operation and sending a clear political message of support from the highest level of government. Meanwhile, Security Minister Omar Garcia Harfuch emphasized the role of the Mexican Air Force and the Army, highlighting interagency coordination and confirming the reliability of the information released. The price paid by the state was significant. Available reports indicated that dozens of National Guard members and soldiers were killed or wounded across Mexico while confronting the violent response from the cartel Jalisco New Generación. Early information suggested that the body of Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes and several of his bodyguards had been recovered after being killed or dying from severe injuries. Among them, El Sapo was transported to Mexico City under extremely tight security. Upon arrival, his body was received by specialized forensic teams and transferred in secured vehicles to a federally protected facility. Those who do not live in Mexico City would find it difficult to imagine the scale of police and military deployment in the capital at that time. From a procedural standpoint, the destination was the Special Prosecutor's Office for Organized Crime, where legal determinations in particularly serious cases are handled. Afterward, forensic examinations were carried out to confirm identity and determine the cause of death. In cases of this magnitude, visual identification alone is never considered sufficient. Authorities were required to conduct full forensic procedures, including legally mandated autopsies, biometric identification checks, fingerprint analysis, DNA comparison, forensic dental examinations, and detailed photographic documentation in order to complete the investigative record. These steps are essential when handling the death of a high-ranking criminal leader. One notable detail appeared in the official statement issued by the Mexican Ministry of Defense. The document placed special emphasis on bilateral cooperation with the United States. This was not merely formal language, but an indication of technological and intelligence involvement, far deeper than what was publicly visible. In operations targeting high-value individuals like this, signals intelligence, metadata analysis, intelligence fusion, and the use of ISR platforms, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance systems often play a decisive role, monitoring satellite communications, analyzing electronic signal patterns, and tracking logistical activities, areas in which U.S. agencies possess considerable technological advantages may have been key factors in determining Mencho's exact hiding location and identifying the moment he appeared at the remote safe house where he had been staying. According to several international media outlets, the precise location was not determined solely through electronic signal analysis, but also through a human link. The tracking process reportedly began on the 20th of the month, when intelligence services observed the movements of a person close to him, described as one of his partners. This individual was believed to have traveled to the Tapalpa area, where he was hiding in an isolated house in the mountains. Location data, communication signals, and electronic interactions recorded during this period provided additional confirmation for earlier intelligence assessments. On the 21st, when that person left the area, authorities concluded that Mencho remained behind with his inner security circle, and at that point, the operation shifted from surveillance to direct action. Several international reports also mentioned support from U.S. interagency task forces focused on combating transnational cartels, structures designed to collect and integrate intelligence across multiple agencies. This further illustrated the complexity of the operation. One unnamed U.S. official stated that building a detailed intelligence profile of Mencho was the key to exposing his location. Nevertheless, both the United States and Mexico emphasized that the operation was designed and executed on the ground by Mexican authorities. At approximately 7:54 p.m. the same day, a spokesperson for the U.S. government confirmed on social media that the United States had provided intelligence information to support Mexico during the operation. While not specifying which agencies were directly involved, beyond the exchange of information, the death of Mencho therefore represented more than a symbolic victory for the governments of Mexico and the United States. It was a direct strike at the center of power of a criminal organization built on a highly centralized command structure. Unlike the Sinaloa cartel, which today operates more as a loose alliance of factions, often divided by internal conflicts, the cartel Jalisco New Generación was constructed for years around a vertical chain of command. Strict discipline and authority concentrated almost entirely in the hands of a single leader. In other words, the structure of the organization revolved around a central figure. Orders, strategy, and ultimate authority all flowed from one point, resembling an authoritarian leadership model. This centralized system allowed the cartel to expand rapidly, maintain internal cohesion, and demonstrate territorial strength for more than a decade. Yet the same structure created a fundamental weakness. When an organization depends too heavily on one individual, the removal of that individual can produce a dangerous vacuum. If that vacuum is not controlled, it can easily become the starting point for escalating violence. For that reason, immediately after Mencho's death, analysts focused on four key figures whose positions inside the organization, territorial control, and personal proximity to Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes made them potential successors. The first figure is Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez, known by the alias N3. Some observers consider him a natural candidate for leadership. Being identified as the stepson of Mencho's wife could provide a form of symbolic legitimacy within the cartel. This is especially relevant since Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, known as El Menchito, the cartel leader's biological son, and once regarded as the direct heir, was arrested and extradited. The second figure is Arias Flores Silva, known as El Jardinero. In terms of operational power, he is considered one of the most formidable candidates. His loyal network refers to themselves as Jardinero's people, reflecting a strong internal structure and personal loyalty. He is believed to control major synthetic drug production and trafficking routes along the Pacific region, while also overseeing security in strongholds across Nayarit, as well as parts of Michoacan and Jalisco. With a disciplined command style resembling military organization and a structured approach to management, El Jardinero is seen as capable of maintaining the cartel's financial and logistical systems during a transition period. The third figure is Heraclio Guerrero Martinez, known as Tio Laco. He serves as a link between the cartel and local self-defense networks in Michoacan and has been connected to fuel theft operations. His strength lies in regional knowledge and strategic alliances, particularly in controlling chemical precursors moving through the port of Lázaro Cárdenas and nearby logistics hubs, key elements in the synthetic drug supply chain. Despite his influence, his role has been viewed more as a regional coordinator than as a potential overall leader. Notably, one of his sons, known by the alias R1, reportedly died during the operation, a factor that could influence internal calculations. The fourth figure is Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, a field commander who has appeared frequently in media reports. He has been featured in propaganda videos displaying cartel firepower and has been linked to the ordered killing of a Mexican influencer in the metropolitan area of Guadalajara. He is regarded as one of the regional bosses responsible for organizing armed responses whenever federal operations take place. His loyalty to Mencho's family has been considered unquestionable. However, his aggressive and highly visible style could become a liability if the organization requires a quieter period of stabilization and restructuring. From a strategic perspective, Mencho's fall marks an important turning point in the security policy of the administration, led by President Claudia Sheinbaum and Security Minister Omar Garcia Harfuch. Yet the history of anti-drug operations in Mexico demonstrates a persistent reality. Cartels function like multi-headed creatures. Removing one leader does not automatically destroy the entire structure. The real challenge, therefore, lies not only in the victory achieved in the mountains of Jalisco, but also in maintaining territorial control, preventing violent fragmentation, and avoiding a power vacuum that could trigger new regional conflicts. The crime boss has fallen, but the system he built, financial networks, armed groups, logistics routes, and layers of mid-level commanders continues to exist and is now entering a period of reorganization. The coming weeks and months will be decisive. The key question is whether this operation will lead to a structural weakening of CJNG or instead produce a more decentralized organization that may become even more aggressive and harder to control. The answer will shape Mexico's security environment for years to come. And if you want to continue following the next developments regarding CJNG, including analyses of potential successors and regional impacts, subscribe to the channel and don't miss the upcoming in-depth reports. Goodbye and see you again.